An estimated 10 million plastic stools are produced in Vietnam every year. You see them everywhere, from soup stalls to home offices. But why? I've lived in this country 16 years, and it's been 34 years since I first came here. I've never known.
Hello, everyone. Today, we're going to talk about a topic that many people wonder about when they first visit Vietnam. It's about those tiny, low plastic stools that Vietnamese people sit on while eating every day. I know it sounds strange, but this story is much more interesting than you might think. And as a Vietnamese person, today I'm going to explain why Vietnamese people sit on such small plastic stools. First, let me paint you a familiar scene in Vietnam. You're walking down any street, maybe in Hanoi, Saigon, or any city. You'll see sidewalk eateries, people crowded together on the sidewalk, sitting on plastic stools in blue, red, or white. The chairs are so low that your knees almost touch your chest. The tables are low too. Everyone hunches over, slurping pho, grabbing more vegetables, chatting loudly. Nobody finds it strange. Nobody complains. But for foreigners, especially Westerners, this is quite an unfamiliar sight. They're used to tall tables and chairs, restaurants with private spaces, with distance between tables. They're used to sitting up straight with their legs comfortably under the table. But in Vietnam, you don't know where to put your legs. Your knees hit the table, sit for a while, and your whole body goes numb. I once read a comment on Instagram from a tourist who asked, "Is it because Vietnamese people are poor that they sit on low chairs?" The question sounds offensive, but I understand why they might think that way. To them, low chairs, plastic stools, sidewalk eateries are associated with images of poverty, with hardship. But actually, this is a misunderstanding. It's not because of poverty, it's because there are much deeper reasons. Let's start with the most practical reason. Space. Vietnam is a densely populated country. Population density is high, especially in big cities like Hanoi or Saigon. Living space is very limited. A house might only be a few dozen square meters, yet it houses multiple generations of a family. Eateries are the same. Many places are just a corner of the sidewalk, or a small space in front of someone's house. If they used large tables and tall chairs, they couldn't fit many customers. Low plastic stools solve this problem perfectly. They're light, they're cheap, they stack easily. In the morning, shop owners bring the chairs out. In the evening, they take them back in. They don't take up much space, they don't require much effort. If there are many customers, owners can bring out more chairs. If there are few, they put some away. Flexible, convenient. That's reason number one. But if we stop there, this story wouldn't be special, because plastic stools would just be a practical solution to a space problem. But I think there's something deeper. It's related to how Vietnamese people view meals and how they interact with each other. In many cultures, meals are an occasion to display status, wealth, and power. You can see this at fancy banquets, with high-end furniture, complex menus, elaborate arrangements. The person at the head of the table is usually the most important. The person furthest away usually has the least power. There's a whole set of rules about how to sit, how to eat, how to behave. But in Vietnam, especially at common eateries, meals aren't for showing off. They're for connecting, for being closer to each other. And low plastic stools play an important role in this. When everyone sits low, no one is higher than anyone else. There's no clear head of the table, no obvious hierarchy. Everyone sits at the same level, hunched over the same plane. The distance between people shortens. You can reach across for the vegetable plate in the middle of the table. You can talk to the person across from you without shouting. You can feel their breath, feel the energy of those around you. In Vietnam, if you walk into a street food stall and there's only one seat left, you can still sit there, even though it's very close to other people. It's perfectly fine. There's no distance, no boundaries, just small acts of sharing in a common space. This is something many foreigners find hard to understand. In the West, personal space is very important. People need distance, need privacy. If someone sits too close, they feel uncomfortable. But in Vietnam, meals aren't absolutely private space. They're small communal spaces. Strangers can become acquaintances after just one meal, just because they sat near each other, ate the same dish, and exchanged a few words. There's another cultural element I want to mention. That's the history of Vietnamese people with sitting low. Vietnamese people traditionally sat on mats, on the floor, on the ground. This is a very old tradition. In traditional houses, people would spread out mats, sit around a round tray of rice, eating together. No tall tables and chairs. Everyone at the same height. Even now, in many Vietnamese families, especially in rural areas, people still keep this habit, sitting on the floor, eating around a tray. This isn't because they lack money to buy tables and chairs. It's because that's the way they feel closest to each other, the way they feel most cozy. And now someone will ask, but life in Vietnam has improved. Why don't people switch to tall tables and chairs for convenience? This is a reasonable question. Actually, in many upscale restaurants and modern cafes, people do use tall furniture. But in common eateries, low plastic stools remain. And I think there are several reasons. First, as I mentioned, plastic stools are very convenient. Cheap, light, easy to clean. For sidewalk vendors, they need flexibility. They don't have fixed space. They have to clean up every day. Plastic stools are the perfect choice. Second, plastic stools don't require standards. You can wear a t-shirt, shorts, flip-flops, and sit down to eat. Nobody looks at you strangely. Nobody requires you to dress properly. Plastic stools allow everyone to come, sit, eat, and go in the most natural way. No constraints, no pretension. Third, and this is most important, plastic stools maintain that down-to-earth, approachable feeling of Vietnamese meals. When you sit on a plastic stool, you know you're eating authentic food, people's food, not food staged for tourists, not food in fancy restaurants with high prices, but everyday food at reasonable prices with familiar flavors. In Vietnamese culture, low doesn't mean less valuable. This is a big difference from many other cultures. In some places, high means good. High means power. High means superior. But in Vietnam, there's a saying, deep rivers run silent, ripe rice bows its head, meaning the more valuable you are, the more humble you should be. The more knowledge you have, the more you should know to bow down. Sitting low, in a way, is an expression of this humility. It's not a sign of weakness. It's a sign of willingness to connect, willingness to share. When you sit low, you're saying, I don't need to be up high. I want to be at the same level as you. I want to be closer to you. In an increasingly complex world, increasingly full of artificial things, plastic stools are a reminder that sometimes the simplest things are the best things. You don't need high-end furniture to have a good meal. You don't need a fancy space to have a meaningful conversation. Just a plastic stool, a bowl of phao, and friends sitting beside you. That's how you understand Vietnam. Not through books, not through luxury tourism, but through simple plastic stools on noisy streets with common meals full of flavor. So next time you visit Vietnam, don't hesitate to sit down on those low plastic stools. Don't compare them to your standards. Open your heart. Feel it. You'll discover that comfort doesn't come from the height of the chair, but from the feeling of being accepted, being yourself, and being part of something bigger. That's the story about plastic stools, and also the story about Vietnam. I hope this video helps you understand why Vietnamese people sit on small plastic stools. Thank you for watching.